Millionaire's stunning surprise uncovered. Discover how he exposed his fiancée's shocking disrespect. Jack McAllister pushed through the door of his luxury apartment, clutching a diamond ring in his pocket, and visions of a future with Emily swirling in his mind. After a grueling business trip that had taken him across the country, he felt exhilarated at the thought of proposing to his girlfriend of 4 years. He envisioned her surprised expression, the spark of happiness that would light up her face. But that vision crumbled when he caught a glimpse of her phone on the kitchen counter, a screen filled with messages that unsettled him. "Sorry for their obsession with your wealth," read one text. The joy he felt dissipated, replaced by an uncomfortable tightness in his chest. Could it be true? Was Emily, the woman he trusted, discussing him like a trophy? He remembered late-night talks about dreams and ambitions, their laughter blending into soft murmurs that shaped who they were. Yet now it felt like a lie. Confusion overwhelmed him as he kicked off his shoes and paced the pristine marble floor, anxiety clawing at his throat. How could he confront her without sounding insecure, without insinuating that he doubted her love? In a city filled with towering buildings and rooftop bars, where wealth defined social circles, Jack had worked tirelessly to build his empire from modest beginnings. Every fix and flip, every savvy investment had led him here, and he had always prided himself on integrity and loyalty. Yet, seeing that text turned his convictions upside down. Was he merely a means to an end for Emily? Jack sat down on the edge of the couch, his mind racing. The thoughts slithered through his psyche like a serpent burrowing deeper. Did she even love him? Or was he just another entry on her family's wish list? The emotional dissonance gripped him. This wasn't just about the money, it was about everything he valued. He wanted to scream but swallowed it down, wishing he could rewind time to when things felt uncomplicated. Each breath became laborious, pulled tight, as dread engulfed him. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As he prepared for the engagement party, swirling laughter and clinking glasses echoed in the background, but his heart soared with a tempest of emotions. It felt surreal, as if he were merely an actor in a scene crafted by the expectations of others. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration, a promise of love and loyalty, but here he stood, weighing the cost of truth against betrayal. He knew he had to confront her, the weight of it heavy on his shoulders. "I can no longer ignore what I've discovered about you and your family," he rehearsed silently, bracing for her reaction. The tension among their guests would thicken, the vibrant atmosphere turning oppressive. But could he be brave enough to expose the battle brewing inside him? Could he shatter the illusion before it engulfed him whole? Clenching his fists, Jack steeled himself. Tonight could either rectify his world or unravel it. As he turned to face the door, the air grew thick with anticipation, each heartbeat resonating like a countdown to collapse. Something had to change. He felt it coming, a cathartic release on the horizon. But would it liberate him or only deepen the chasm between them? Jack stepped into the ballroom, the effervescence of chatter and laughter wrapping around him like a cloud of smoke. Each face sparkled with anticipation, the atmosphere charged with celebration. All the while he felt like a storm brewing beneath the surface. The diamond ring weighed heavily in his pocket, a symbol of everything he thought they shared, now marred by doubt and suspicion. He maneuvered through the crowd, greeting guests with a polite smile, while internal turmoil knitted a knot tighter in his stomach. Every polite inquiry about his future with Emily felt like needles pricking at his confidence. As he reached the bar, he ordered a drink, needing anything to steady his nerves. The bartender handed him a whiskey neat, and as he took a sip, the warmth washed over him, a fleeting reprieve against the churning thoughts. Could he betray the love they had built over years? The memories flooded in, dinners where they planned to build a life together, shared experiences that felt indelible until that very moment. Did he even know Emily beyond what she presented in public? The inner dialogue grew restless, urging him to take control, to uncover the truth buried beneath the shiny surface. His heart raced as he spotted Emily from across the room, engaged in intimate conversations, her laughter ringing bright. She looked stunning, radiant, and yet, as much as he longed to join her, a visceral instinct held him back. What if she turned to him with eyes filled with affection, but the truth was lurking beneath? What if her love was tainted, shaped by the expectations of her connected family? Jack remembered his family's guiding principles, honor and honesty above all else. Could he betray those for a facade of happiness? The thought ignited a fire within him. No longer could he be a puppet in this charade. He needed clarity, a confrontation that might change the trajectory of everything he believed in. As the clock ticked closer to the hour of the toast, Jack felt the urgent pull of time. His moment of confrontation was near, and he focused on the array of emotions raging like a tempest inside him. He took a deep breath, placing the glass down firmly, feeling the cool surface against his palm. "It's now or never," he whispered to himself. With newfound resolve, he made his way across the room. Each step felt heavy yet empowering. Emily's eyes locked with his, and he saw the excitement flicker in her smile. Yet, to him, the smiles felt as fragile as glass, a veneer that could shatter with a single word. As he drew closer, he knew they were within earshot of their friends and family, a precarious setting for the storm he was about to unleash, but it had to happen. "Emily," he began, his voice steadier than he felt. "Can we talk now?" The urgency was unmistakable, a stark contrast to the celebratory air surrounding them. He could feel several eyes darting in their direction. His heart pounded. In private. He braced himself as her expression shifted, curiosity morphing into concern. It was the fear in her eyes that gnawed at him, but oddly, he found an ember of determination ignite within. He couldn't ignore what was unfolding anymore. The truth needed to be confronted. As they stepped away from the crowd, the walls of their insulated world felt more daunting than ever. What awaited him was the unknown, a decision that would test not just their relationship, but the very fabric of who he was. Would he emerge from this trial unscathed, or would he find his life or heart shattered? Jack knew this was it, the moment he couldn't turn back from. The question loomed between them, a silent clock counting down to revelation. Would the love they had built withstand the truth? Inside him, turmoil simmered, leaving only one thought as they left the party's noise behind. The time had come to face what remained unsaid. The air shifted as they stepped into a quieter, dimly lit alcove, far removed from the jubilant festivities. Jack could feel the weight of Emily's gaze, a mix of apprehension and a glimmer of hope that he would say something reassuring. But he had crossed a threshold too significant to turn back now. He inhaled deeply, trying to summon the courage that felt so elusive moments ago. "Emily," he started, his voice steady but his mind raced, questions tumbling over one another like waves crashing against a shoreline. "We need to talk about us, about everything." He could feel the tension coiling tighter in his chest, a palpable charge, as he prepared to scrape the surface of their relationship. "Jack, what is this about?" Her brow furrowed, worry etched into her features. Her voice trembled slightly, which only fueled his resolve. Could she sense the storm brewing within him? "I don't want to live a lie," he blurted, his honesty tumbling out of him. "I've seen you with your family, and it feels like there's something, I don't know, more going on than what we've talked about." The words felt like shards of glass breaking through his throat, raw yet liberating. "Is this about that comment I made about my father's business? You know how he can be," Emily replied defensively, pulling back slightly as if to shield herself. "He expects so much. You know I don't always agree with him." "Then why do I feel like I don't know you at all? You say you don't want to be what he envisions, but you still bend to his influence. I'm asking you to be honest with me, Emily. This isn't only about him. It's about us." Each sentence felt like a step deeper into the unknown, a plunge into turbulent waters. "I am being honest," her voice edged with emotion. "What do you want me to say? That I don't want to marry you? Because that's not true. But are you marrying me for the right reasons? or to fulfill some expectation. The vulnerability in his tone surprised even him. He had always intended to shield her from doubt, to protect their bond, but this was what honor meant to him, genuineness above all else. The mantle he bore felt heavier now, stripped of pretense. The air hung thick with tension, and for a brief moment silence enveloped them. Jack felt his heart race, not from fear of rejection, but from the clarity that he could no longer avoid the crux of the matter. "Look, I'm not accusing you of anything, but—" He hesitated, debating whether to voice the harrowing thought blossoming inside him. Could he risk everything, even the fragile threads binding them together? "There are whispers, Emily. Whispers about you, about us. I can't pretend that I don't know they exist." Her eyes widened, disbelief morphing into anguish. "What do you mean, whispers?" There was a tremor in her voice, one that spoke of her fear of losing not just him, but the controlled world she navigated. "People are talking about your commitment, about you still being tied to that life you insist you want to escape." Each word felt like an ice-cold drop into a boiling cauldron, a mixture of pain and urgency. "And I can't help but feel I should know. I need to know if we're on the same side or if I'm just a temporary solution to your dilemma." Emily stepped back, her face ghostly pale, and Jack knew. The unspoken trust between them teetered on the precipice of this confrontation. I want you to trust me," she finally said, barely above a whisper, but Jack could see the cracks forming in her resolve. As he stood there, his heart becoming a storm of fear, desperation, and determination, he realized that this conversation would carve them a path forward or lead to their unmaking. "Then show me. Show me who you are when the weight of your world isn't pressing down on you," Jack challenged, his voice breaking slightly, revealing the raw wound of uncertainty. With their future resting precariously on the edge of revelation, a sense of urgency coursed through him. He needed answers, and he needed them now, before the dance of facades claimed them both. Would Emily rise to the occasion, or would the truth lay them bare, exposing vulnerabilities they couldn't afford to ignore? In that moment he knew. This wasn't just about their relationship, it was about his own understanding of love, commitment, and the uncompromising nature of authentic connection. And as he looked into her eyes, the first flicker of resolve sparked within him, setting the stage for the truth he had been longing to uncover. But as the tension thickened, an even darker question lurked just beyond the horizon of their confrontation. What if the truth he sought was more terrifying than he had ever imagined? Jack's heart thudded in time with the deafening silence that stretched between them, each second carving deeper lines of uncertainty into his resolve. He sensed the familiar pangs of doubt creeping back in, an unwelcome reminder of how easily insecurities could dismantle the foundations of their relationship. As he studied Emily's expression, an intriguing mixture of fear and stubborn pride, he acknowledged a truth he had long suppressed. Their dynamic felt as if it were a carefully constructed facade, an illusion that had worked wonders at keeping emotional chaos at bay. But tonight the stakes were too high, and he couldn't afford to postpone the inevitable any longer. "Emily, it's not just about those whispers." The words came out more forceful than intended, but he was careful to soften his tone. "It's about how we define our lives and what we want from each other. I'm tired of guessing what's buried beneath all this uncertainty." She shifted, casting her gaze downward before meeting his eyes again, her defensiveness cracking against the weight of his sincerity. "You think I'm trying to hide something? I don't know how to be someone other than what my family expects. It's suffocating." "Then let's carve a different path," he suggested, an ember of hope sparking within him. "We can do this together. You don't have to shoulder it alone." In that moment, he realized that it wasn't solely about convincing Emily to embrace a new direction. He needed to confront the patterns within himself that had kept him tethered to the safety of personal boundaries, avoiding risk in favor of self-preservation. The fear of being hurt or inadvertently hurting someone else was a wall he needed to dismantle. Watching Emily wrestle with her inner turmoil made him ponder if he was as ready to face the truth as he demanded of her. Perhaps the serenade of trust they both yearned for beckoned from the depths of discomfort. He was beginning to understand that vulnerability was not a sign of weakness. Rather, it was an invitation for growth. Yet the very thought of lifting that veil felt daunting. What if the truths they uncovered could fracture, if not destroy, the tenuous bond they shared? But without diving into those uncharted waters, could he call this relationship genuine? "Okay, let's be raw with each other then," she finally said, her breath wavering. "Tell me what you truly want, Jack." His heart raced as her challenge coursed through him. Here was his chance to radiate clarity. "I want to know that the woman I love is not hiding behind walls of expectation. I want to partner with someone who is truly herself, not just a reflection of her family's desires." Silence enveloped them again as her expression shifted from panic to resoluteness. The tension between them was electric. In that break of stillness, Jack realized this was no mere escalation of their relationship. It was a call to arms, urging both of them to restructure their identities. "Then I need to take control of my life," she said, fire igniting in her tone. "I've let them dictate too much for far too long." Jack felt a rush of pride for her determined stance, but also a creeping anxiety of what that could mean for their future. If she did break free from those expectations, would it still be enough to keep them together? Could they build a life without the baggage of the past dragging them down? In that moment of reckoning, both were poised on the edge of transformation. But what lay beyond that precipice? Would the vulnerability they dared to embrace serve as a catalyst for unity or a catalyst for separation? Each question pressed heavier against him, darkening the horizon of what could unfold. Jack's heart lurched as he caught sight of Emily's gaze. It felt as if they stood not merely in a state of confrontation, but rather on the brink of self-discovery. With a newfound knowledge set within him, he ducked his head slightly, acknowledging how crucial this juncture had become for both of them. "Then let's find out together." The resolve ignited between them, though a shadow of uncertainty lingered. Jack understood. Real growth came not from the absence of fear, but from the choice to face it directly. But in the depths of his mind, a question loomed. What if emerging truths opened doors they were not ready to walk through? Jack stepped out into the brisk night air, feeling as though he had left a part of himself behind in that living room. The streetlights cast a yellow glow on the damp pavement, illuminating the path ahead, but doing little to chase away the heaviness pressing down on his chest. He needed space to process what had just unfolded. The conversation with Emily was more than just a moment of rawness. It had opened a floodgate of emotions he had long suppressed in the name of safety. He walked aimlessly, his mind racing through the implications of their exchange, his words hanging in the air like morning fog, both comforting and suffocating. This path meant more than just confronting Emily's family expectations. It meant coming to terms with his own demons. How had he allowed fear to tether him all this time, paralyzing his ability to embrace the unknown? Each footstep felt heavy with the weight of realizations that threatened to redefine him. His cell phone buzzed in his pocket, disrupting the spiral of thoughts. It was a group message from work. The long-awaited project proposal they had been working on for months was moving forward. Their firm had been awarded the contract, but the news felt like a whisper compared to the thunder of his internal struggle. It should have been exhilarating, but that joy felt distant, as if it belonged to someone else. He searched for a coffee shop, a sanctuary from the chaos lurking in his mind. The familiar blend of roasted beans wafted through the air as he entered, grounding him momentarily. He ordered a black coffee, letting the barista's routine become a distraction. While he waited, he couldn't shake off the question that flickered in his mind. What did he want for himself beyond the confines of a predictable life and relationship? Sitting in the corner with his coffee, the steam rising like unvoiced hopes, he reflected on all the times he had avoided confrontations, be it with clients or even Emily. He had always played it safe, cradling the reins of control as if they were a lifeline. Yet deep down he knew this wasn't true control at all. It was a facade of security hiding a vast reservoir of unexpressed ambition. Jack recalled a conversation he had with his mentor while still in college, a titan in the real estate industry. "You can't lead others until you learn to lead yourself," the older man had pronounced seriously. At the time, Jack had brushed off the advice as overly simplistic, but now it resonated profoundly. How could he expect Emily to relinquish her chains of expectation if he was chained to his own? If he wanted her to step into the light, he first needed to step into his own. He pulled out his notebook, the pages filled with scribbles of ideas, plans, and dreams. One particular entry jumped out at him from the chaos, a concept for a community project aimed at helping young professionals find their footing. The thought had once ignited a spark, something worth pursuing beyond his corporate ambitions. Was this the direction his heart was urging him to explore? Could this be the manifestation of the proactive life he craved, one that aligned with his true self? Jack realized he was on the precipice of a massive decision, not solely for Emily but for himself, as he couldn't support her growth without first addressing his own. Risk was no longer a dirty word, it was a chance for rebirth. The thought filled him with a palpable energy, an anticipation that hadn't been present in years. With newfound resolve, he began to draft plans for this initiative. His mind moved quicker than his pen could keep up, a torrent of ideas unfurling before his eyes. Each line reignited a forgotten passion, one that could catalyze not only his growth, but also create spaces for others to thrive. He didn't know where this would lead him, but he was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The time had come to embrace not only his passions, but the uncertainty that accompanied them. As the coffee shop buzzed around him, he realized this moment of clarity was merely the beginning. The conversation with Emily was still unresolved, and he contemplated how he would convey this transformation to her. But, as he left the cafe, invigorated and filled with a sense of purpose, an uneasy feeling surfaced. Would she be ready to break free alongside him? The question hung in the air like a fog waiting to clear, leaving an undercurrent of tension. The challenge ahead loomed larger than ever. The chill of the night air wrapped around Jack as he walked, his mind racing with the resolve he had ignited in the coffee shop. Each step felt more decisive than the last, and yet a part of him trembled at the prospect of sharing his newfound ambitions with Emily. The relentless buzz of urban life surrounded him, yet he felt detached, immersed in a world of his own making. The familiar sights of the city, illuminated by the flickering lights, began to transform into metaphors of his journey. Each landmark was a reminder of moments he had previously avoided, conversations unhad, risks unchallenged. He gathered his thoughts, aware that he had needed this catalyst to inspire change. But could he expect Emily to embrace this shift too? As he walked, the weight of his decisions settled on him. What if revealing his dreams laid bare the differences in their aspirations? Would it fracture the bond they had built? He pulled out his phone again, navigating through a jumble of notifications until he stumbled upon an email from his mentor. "Sometimes growth is uncomfortable. Push through," it read. This time, it felt like the words were meant for him, echoing the urgency of his situation. Jack paused at a street corner, watching the stream of pedestrians. He could see the determination woven into their strides, unburdened by the doubts that had gripped him for so long. He hadn't merely observed them from the sidelines, he had become one of their number. But was he willing to step into the spotlight of his own life? He found himself at the entrance of another cafe, one he and Emily often frequented. Looks of couples enjoying the moment intensified the internal dialogue within him. As he took a seat at a nearby table, he pulled out his notebook again, leafing through page after page filled with plans. His heart raced as he wrote out key points of his community project, its goals, potential partnerships, and the ripple effects it might create. It felt broad and daunting, but the pulse of his vision gradually overtook the anxiety. In a world fixated on careers and success, could he pursue a path that felt authentic, even if it strayed from societal norms? The idea was exhilarating, yet still laced with uncertainty. He envisioned Emily standing beside him, perhaps even sharing her own dreams, but doubt crept in. What if his journey ran contrary to her expectations? As he drafted potential outreach strategies, another thought flashed, one that sent his pulse racing. Could this initiative open the door for conversations about their future, about re-evaluating what they truly wanted, both individually and together? There was power in vulnerability, and the prospect of building something meaningful made the weight of his earlier fears feel lighter. A resolve bloomed within him. If they were to withstand the external pressures of societal opinion, they first needed to create a sturdy grounding between their identities. Jack needed to take the leap, both for himself and for Emily. He could no longer hide behind safety. After all, he had spent too many years denying parts of himself. With a deep breath, he crossed the final item off the list: have an honest conversation with Emily. The abruptness of the decision jolted him. Was he ready to confront not only his ambitions, but the configurations of their relationship? He expected struggle, perhaps even confrontation, but the need for authenticity outweighed the fear of conflict. With a sense of urgency, he stood and left the cafe, determination coursing through him. Each step toward home felt charged with potential, yet an underlying fear gripped him. What if Emily didn't welcome this change? What if his newfound courage pushed her away instead of drawing her closer? As he approached his apartment building, the glow from the windows seemed to invite him into a space tinged with both warmth and uncertainty. He realized the challenge he had set for himself wasn't just about pursuing a dream. It was a test of their relationship itself. The moment of truth was quickly approaching, and he found himself wishing for clarity. Would Emily embrace their new path, or would the frayed edges of their aspirations unravel their bond? The thought hung in the air like a thick fog, clouding the path ahead with doubt, yet igniting a flicker of hope. The door creaked open, and Jack stepped into the inviting warmth of his apartment, the familiar scent of coffee and vanilla lingering in the air. It felt both comforting and suffocating. Each instinct screamed at him to retreat, to hide behind the safety of mundane conversations. But he could not afford that luxury anymore. He spotted Emily in the kitchen, her back turned to him as she stirred a pot on the stove. The soft glow of the overhead lights cast a gentle halo around her, a stark contrast to the tumultuous thoughts raging in his mind. He watched her, entranced by the ease with which she navigated their tiny space. Would she recognize the tempest within him? "Hey, you're home early," she said, glancing over her shoulder and smiling. The warmth of her smile was both a balm and a dagger, soothing yet intensifying his doubts. Was she prepared to face the truth lurking just beneath the veneer of their daily life? He started, feeling the weight of his thoughts threatening to choke him. He needed to be candid, to shed the layers of pretense. "I have something I want to talk to you about." The words hovered between them, thick with anticipation. Her smile faltered, concern knitting her brow. "Is everything okay?" He took a deep breath, grounding himself in the moment. It's about my plans, the project at the community center. I want to pursue it. For real." His pulse quickened. He was teetering on the edge of vulnerability, no longer willing to hide behind doubt. She turned fully to face him, her stirring spoon pausing mid-air. "Your project? You mean the one you've mentioned a few times?" "Yes, but it's more than just an idea now," he said, the urgency in his voice evident. "I've written out plans, strategies for outreach and goals. I want to make a difference." The sincerity poured out of him, overwhelming the fears that had long imprisoned him. Emily hadn't moved, her expression unreadable. He could practically hear her thoughts racing, crunching through the possibilities and contingencies. The silence stretched, and he felt exposed, as if every vulnerability had been laid bare. "And what about your job?" she asked, her tone a careful mix of curiosity and concern. "The one that pays the bills?" Jack's heart sank momentarily. "It's important, but I've been feeling unfulfilled. This project feels like my calling. I can't ignore that any longer." The truth, raw and unrefined, escaped his lips. "But what if it doesn't work out?" she countered, her voice soft but firm, echoing his worst fears. "What if you end up regretting this decision?" He took a step closer, his resolve solidifying with each heartbeat. "What if I don't try?" This challenge was bigger than just him. It was about their future, too. He wanted to invite her to share in this venture, to navigate uncertainty together, but uncertainty wasn't a comfortable place for either of them. "I get that you want to do something meaningful. That's admirable, but what? You think I should just stay in a job that drains me?" The words escaped before he could reel them back in, a mix of frustration and fear bubbling to the surface. Emily crossed her arms, her gaze unwavering. "I'm not saying to stay at a job you don't like, but a leap without a safety net isn't exactly responsible." The tension between them crackled, and Jack felt his defenses rising. He had stepped into this conversation with bravery, anticipating a collaborative dialogue. Instead, he felt the encroachment of doubt, as if past conversations replayed in a loop, tracing invisible boundaries around them. "I need you to believe in me in this," Jack said, the conviction surging inside him. "If we can't support each other's dreams, what are we doing?" They stood there, the distance between them charged with the weight of unspoken fears and desires. Jack realized this was about more than just his project. It was about the very foundation of their relationship. Would their aspirations harmonize, or were they destined to clash? As he stood there, grappling with the reality of their future, a new thought pierced through his uncertainty. What if pursuing his dream demanded deeper sacrifices than he had anticipated? He was on the verge of confronting not only his ambitions, but the heart of their partnership. The air grew thick with unresolved tension, and Jack held his breath as he awaited her response, knowing that their next words could reshape everything. Would she choose to reinforce their bond, or to question the very essence of their aspirations together? In that moment, he realized the conversation was just beginning, and despite the uncertainty, he was ready to face whatever lay ahead. Without fully understanding the repercussions of their next exchange, they stood at the precipice of a decision that could either forge a stronger connection or chart a new, uncertain course altogether. Jack's heart raced as he locked eyes with Emily, the stillness in the air amplifying the gravity of their conversation. He could feel the tension wrapping around them like a vice, squeezing out the small comforts of their daily life and leaving only the raw dispute between dreams and reality. "Jack," Emily spoke, her tone gentle but edged with steel, "this is a significant decision. Have you really thought it through?" He hesitated, wrestling with self-doubt. For years he had muted his ambitions, let them fade beneath the suffocating routine of a safe job. But now, all those aspirations he buried deep within were bubbling to the surface, demanding attention. "I have," Jack replied, his voice firm, yet uncertainty flickered within. "This is who I want to be. I need to try, or I'll resent myself, resent us." He could see her processing his words, concern etching lines on her brow. He had to help her understand this wasn't merely about a career, it was about fulfillment, identity, and ultimately, happiness. "I can't keep living in a constant state of, what if? If I don't take this step, I might regret it for the rest of my life." Her gaze softened, an almost imperceptible shift, but Jack noticed everything. Walls they built to protect themselves now seemed imminent to crumble under the weight of his resolve. "I just worry about the risks involved," she sighed, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if it doesn't go the way you hope? What happens to us?" "You mean what happens to you?" He shot back, unable to contain the edge in his voice, the sharpness of his own fears translating into frustration. He regretted the words as soon as they left his lips, but it was too late. A barrier detached them, invisible, but palpable. Emily took a step back, hurt flickering in her eyes. "Jack, that's not fair. I want you to follow your dreams. I just want us to be secure." Her retreat didn't just signify emotional distance. It felt like a fissure in the foundation of their relationship. Jack swallowed hard. Wasn't he asking for her support to build something real? "I don't want to build a life on security alone. I want passion, purpose." His voice trailed off as a more profound realization consumed him. He was not only fighting for his dream, but for an identity he long since stifled, a piece of himself tarnished by years of complacency. Jack sighed deeply, the weight of realization sinking in. While the stakes felt impossibly high, he couldn't allow the specter of failure to paralyze him. What if he failed? Or worse, what if he succeeded? Would Emily remain at his side, or would she view his achievement through a lens of fear and doubt? He needed a bridge back to Emily, not just for their connection, but also as a renewal of his purpose. "Let's talk about it, like, really talk," he said, softening his tone. "I need you by my side to navigate this, not just as a spectator, but as a partner. I want us to envision this together." He watched her carefully, the gears visibly turning behind her eyes. Could they embrace this uncertainty as a team? Was there a path forward that safeguarded their relationship while allowing him to pursue his ambition? "Okay," she finally whispered, her arms unfolding as she stepped closer. "Let's talk." Her voice wavered but held promise. As they began to share their thoughts and feelings, Jack felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. The prospect of mutual support filled him with a sense of purpose. Perhaps embarking on this journey wouldn't shatter their world, but transform it into something more vibrant. Yet, as the evening wore on, the conversation drifted deeper, intertwining fears and aspirations, raising pertinent questions about who they were as individuals and as a couple. Jack sensed hidden anxieties and dreams waiting to be unearthed, and with every word shared they chipped at the facade that had kept them in a safe yet stagnant realm. As they pushed through the layers of uncertainty, Jack realized he faced more than just his ambitions. He was confronting the shadows that hovered over their future. The deeper they dove into their conversation, the more they both seemed to question not just themselves, but their very connection. When Emily finally spoke again, Jack felt his stomach tighten. What if there are parts of us that never align? The question hung heavy in the air, echoing a reality neither of them wanted to consider, but that had now become unavoidable. Jack understood in that moment that their journey together could lead to unexpected revelations, perhaps even painful truths, that would ultimately redefine not just his aspirations, but their entire relationship. The night unfolded in uncharted territory, where their partnership stood at a crossroads. Confronted with doubts, Jack braced himself. The real challenge had only just begun, and the most daunting discovery lay ahead. What they would find when they peeled back the layers could reshape everything they believed was solid. Jack lay in bed, the silence stretching between him and Emily, overshadowed by the intensity of their previous conversation. It was a silence that felt oppressive, thick with unspoken fears and unkind realizations. He couldn't shake the question that loomed over them like a dark cloud. What if there were parts of them that never aligned? Morning crept in softly, painting the room in muted light, but Jack felt anything but refreshed. Hidden beneath the normal homespun routine, his thoughts raced. Each ticking second reminded him of life beyond their cocoon, a life where he could explore the dreams he had tucked away, aspirations that grew more desperate as the days turned to years. He glanced over at Emily, her features softened in sleep. Would she still be here, supporting him in the chaos he was about to step into? The weight of his choices hovered tantalizingly close. Did he have the power to carve out a new path without fragmenting what they had built together? With a decision brewing within, he slipped out of bed and grabbed his notepad, a small relic of his ambitions that had lain untouched for far too long. He sank into the kitchen chair, the scratching of his pen on paper punctuating the stillness. Ideas spilled forth as he jotted down his dreams, each one more audacious than the last. A startup, a side venture, something that made his heart race with purpose rather than dread. But amidst his excitement, self-doubt would periodically creep in. The risks were real. He could fail miserably. Was he ready to confront that spectre? More significantly, what would happen if Emily was not on board? They had talked about this last night, but words were one thing. Actions were another. Determined, he set his mind on investigating the options he had listed. Research consumed him over the next few days as he delved into entrepreneurial resources. Late nights morphed into early mornings as he navigated the intricacies of business plans, market analysis, and potential pitfalls. Throughout this process, he felt himself awaken to a clearer vision of what he wanted, a tangible, actionable outline of how he could maneuver between dreams and reality. But his focus on these professional developments didn't alleviate the emotional tension with Emily. Instead, it seemed to amplify it. One evening as he prepared dinner, he could feel her presence in the kitchen behind him. She came up beside him, observing his movements. "You've been distant lately," she remarked, her tone hesitant. Jack froze momentarily, but continued chopping vegetables, needing the distraction as much as the busy work. "I've been busy," Jack replied, his voice steady but thin, hiding the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. He wiped his brow with the back of his hand, refusing to meet her eyes. He felt guilty for diving headfirst into an enterprise while leaving the emotional side of their relationship hanging. "Busy with what?" she pressed, and he could hear the concern woven into her inquiry. The air between them crackled, charged by the unsaid words that were all too significant. Jack set down the knife, finally turning to her. "I have ideas, I mean real plans. I'm trying to chart a path forward. I want to do this, he admitted, the weight of honesty bringing a rush of relief, yet accompanied by a tide of anxiety. Emily opened her mouth to respond, but hesitated, the words caught in her throat. Instead, vulnerability radiated from her expression. What if we aren't on the same page about these ideas? I can't help but feel like this might change everything between us. Her vulnerability hit him like a jolt. He had seen glimpses of her resistance and concerns, but this stark honesty brought them into sharp focus. He realized he needed to not only advocate for his dreams, but also extend the invitation for her support. She deserved to be part of the process. "Let's make this journey together," he finally said, the sentiment dissolving the tense air between them. "I want our partnership to reflect both our dreams. Let's identify what you want too." Her eyes widened, contemplating his offer. "I appreciate that, Jack, but what if your dreams lead to a path where I don't fit?" That stark question resonated, reverberating against the very foundation of their relationship. He felt a wave of urgency sweep over him. This was the crux of their dilemma. It wasn't just his ambitions at stake, but the very essence of who they were as partners. How they navigated this new territory could redefine their future in ways they hadn't yet imagined. The tension remained, a palpable entity between them, challenging the solidity of their relationship while celebrating the raw potential for growth. As he caught her searching gaze, a connection sparked, a fleeting moment of understanding. It felt like both a door opening and closing simultaneously, revealing infinite possibilities while echoing fears of isolation. The stakes were escalating, and Jack's heart pounded against the potential revelations waiting beyond those doors. The moment tugged at him. Their journey wasn't just about his dreams anymore, but about creating a shared narrative. The growing realization brought a new sense of urgency, but was it enough to bridge the gap between their diverging paths? Uncertainty swirled, and Jack understood that the real test awaited them at this precipice. Would their bond weather the impending storm, or fragment beneath the weight of ambition? Jack blinked against the bright morning light filtering into the apartment, his mind racing with the weight of their discussion. He recognized the profound import of the crossroads he and Emily faced, not just as individuals, but as partners navigating a shared future. The fear of drifting apart weighed heavily, yet alongside that fear lay the exhilarating promise of transformation. After days spent wrestling with his plans for the community project, he understood that his aspirations had the potential to alter their lives in significant ways. More than just ambition, it had morphed into a calling, a drive to build something meaningful. He longed to inspire others, to create change that resonated beyond himself. But with his exhilaration also came the undeniable truth that this journey would require Emily's unconditional support and understanding. He could not forge ahead without her. "Emily," he called out as she stepped into the living room, busying herself with the day's mundane tasks. She turned to meet his gaze, her expression a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. "I've been thinking a lot about our conversation, about what I want and need," he said, the solid conviction boosting his confidence. "I want to lay it all out, because my vision is more than a career shift. It's an invitation, an opportunity for us both to explore who we are individually and as partners." Her brows knitted together, a flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. "What do you mean?" Her voice carried a weight that demanded clarity, a necessity for transparency. "I want us to find our paths together. Your dreams matter just as much as mine. It can't be just about my aspirations alone. I want to know what moves you, what your passions are," he replied, feeling the urgency rising within him. "We need to build a life that incorporates both of our dreams. This journey can't erode our relationship. It must fortify it." Emily remained silent for a moment, absorbing his words. The air hummed with tension and possibility, and Jack feared that he might have jeopardized their foundation with his bold stance. But as he watched her, he noticed something shift in her demeanor, a subtle softness emerging from behind her guarded exterior. "Jack, I didn't realize how much I wanted to share my dreams too. I've been so focused on the idea of wearing a mask to please my family that I lost sight of my own passions," she admitted, her voice trembling with vulnerability. The acknowledgement felt monumental, The first step toward unearthing their individual truths was unfolding before them. "Then let's uncover them together," he urged, the excitement bubbling within him. "Let's forge a plan that speaks to both our ambitions. This could be the moment we redefine who we are, embracing both growth and authenticity." Her lips curled into a tentative smile, the kind that felt so familiar yet distant. "I like that idea. I've always wanted to work on non-profit education initiatives. I buried it under family expectations, but this feels like the right moment to breathe life into it." Jack felt a rush of warmth surging through him. The realization of mutual aspiration wasn't just liberating, it was transformative. "That's incredible, Emily. Let's combine forces. Your vision with education alongside my project could create something impactful." The possibilities raced through Jack's mind, a kaleidoscope of potential that coalesced around their shared commitment. Their passions could intertwine, strengthening their bond. With a renewed sense of purpose igniting both of them, they began drafting a tangible plan together. As they sat side by side, brainstorming and building a vision, they felt walls disintegrate, not just those separating their dreams, but the fears that had kept them stagnant. The dynamic flow of ideas transformed the atmosphere, and Jack felt a confidence blooming within him as they articulated their goals. Each vision fueled passion, excitement, and even laughter, lighter, genuine moments that contrasted sharply with their earlier fears. With every word spoken, he could feel the foundation of their relationship solidifying in ways he hadn't thought possible. Time passed in a blur of creativity and collaboration. Hours seemed like mere minutes, but Jack felt a profound shift taking place within him. He wasn't just pursuing a personal ambition anymore, he was forging a shared future, anchored in authenticity and mutual support. As they wrapped up their session, Emily met his eyes and Jack could see a spark there, an understanding that they were embarking on this journey together, not as two individuals, but as a united front, ready to overcome any challenges that lay ahead. This wasn't just about achieving personal success, it was also about nurturing the foundation of their relationship. He had risen from the depths of insecurity, emerging into a greater version of himself, one willing to embrace vulnerability and mutual support. Jack took a deep breath, feeling lighter as clarity settled within him. The words flowed effortlessly as he spoke. "So, what's our first step forward? We need to take action." Emily grinned, her eyes shining with newfound determination. "Let's sign up for community workshops and networking events. I want to connect with others and see how we can collaborate." With a palpable enthusiasm, they poured their collective energy into formulating actionable steps. Jack understood, in that moment of profound clarity, that true success wasn't solely defined by wealth or recognition, but also by the connections he forged, both with people and within himself. He had conquered doubt, emerged with solid confidence, and garnered the recognition of being a partner who listens and values the dreams of his loved one. As they stood together, a renewed sense of clarity emerged. The storm of uncertainty had given way to the dawn of purpose, a newfound belief that they could both thrive. They had stumbled upon a powerful truth. When hearts align and ambitions intertwine, no dream was too great to reach. And with that, Jack embraced Emily fully, feeling her spirit envelop him in unity. They were ready to face whatever journey lay ahead, hand in hand, each determined to push the boundaries of their dreams together. This was the moment, the turning point where ambitions solidified into an enriching purpose, each star in their respective dreams lighting the path ahead. Their journey began anew, a shared odyssey fueled by passion, unafraid to face the uncertainties together. Now was just the beginning. If you found this journey of transformation inspiring, you need to subscribe to the channel now. Don't let the opportunity to witness more powerful stories slip away. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for personal growth stories. Your engagement matters. Comment below and share your thoughts on this ending and your own paths of breakthrough. Share this story immediately with 5 friends who need to see this empowering conclusion. Let's spread the message of hope and realization. Let's keep the conversation alive. Stay connected for more.